Well, the immediate concern is about the election of the NDP, because I think that would be disastrous for the province. I actually am a hopeful guy and quite optimistic, and so I think with common sense and good minds and goodwill that we can solve the majority of our problems. So I am largely optimistic and not fearful about our future. I think we have to tend to it carefully and wisely, but I think we can have a marvelous future, and I hope that we do.
Thank you. Mr. Wright.
Can you repeat the question?
What is your biggest concern for the future of BC?
The election is a good point. We can agree there that the thought of a BC Liberal government coming back after a decade of deceit, after what happened with selling off BC Rail when they said they wouldn't sell BC Rail, with them saying that they wouldn't rip up contracts, and they did rip up contracts, with them bringing in the HST after they told small business home builders and restaurateurs that they specifically would not bring in the HST, and it was the largest tax transfer onto ordinary British Columbians in the history of British Columbia in the last election. The Bassey Burke deal. Talk about stink and jiggery-pokery. Here's a government that had the audacity to take our money and invest it that way.
Thank you. Ms. Campbell?
My biggest fears for our future is the high cost of everything. Our economy is just skyrocketing, and the price of gas is going up and up and up, and the cost of everything's rising with it. A lot of our young people are being forced to seek jobs in Alberta and that to try and make ends meet, and they're coming home to their families. That's my biggest fear, is there's not going to be anybody left because we can't afford it. Our seniors as well. They're not making a lot of money, and we've got nowhere really to home them to. We've been privatizing so much that the seniors won't be able to afford to live in a facility when their time comes.
Thank you. Mr. Davis?
Thank you. My biggest concern is climate change. The more money we put into fossil fuel infrastructure now, the more we're going to have to pay to try to remediate the damage it's going to do later. So the plans that we have by the two main parties to build all these liquefied natural gas export terminals, the rate that they want to export it, it will be gone in less than a decade, and we will be left with all these white elephants that we subsidized. The other plan is to build the Site C Dam, which will cost the taxpayers $8 billion, and that will only power one of those. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Walden?
Well, we keep talking about localizing everything, so I'm going to localize that question and talk about my fears for the Cowichan Valley. My biggest fear is that we are going to replicate what happened to my grandmother before she emigrated to Canada after World War II. She ended up being a guest worker in the country next door. What that meant was a day on the train, 2 weeks of working a menial job, and a day on the train coming back. She'd see her daughters for half a day, and she'd right back to work. I am really concerned that we are driving families away from the valley because of a lack of jobs. Without jobs, we have no future as a community. Without the ability for people to feed themselves and to raise their families, we are violating the very core principle of sustainability.